I had a long, genuine conversation with not only Progressive Victory staff, but a lot of the campaigns that were related. And in the Progressive Victory staff, like specifically like Ben, was like sitting on in the conversations that we had with the Hartzell campaign. And we're headed towards our I don't know if we're going to call it third round negotiation. Third rounds of talks is probably better. Okay, I don't want to make it sound so lofty. He listens to these arguments that we make in support of Ukraine, and also the arguments that I make as to why it would be efficacious for the left to support Ukraine in the United States, considering how overwhelmingly popular it is. And it was a convincing enough argument that it moved the organization. It's not like I have the viewership weight to like say, all of my viewers will come together and boycott Progressive Victory. I mean, they're working with content creators like Hassan Piker and like Crystal Ball, who have mega audiences, right? Mega audiences. And so there was no immediate like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose Dylan's viewership. But they were worried about the fact that most of their rank and file support Ukraine. That if I was to come out and be like, why is Progressive Victory fundraising for people who won't support aid to Ukraine? You know, it says that they're pro-Ukraine in their thing, but if you're fund XYZ, is this not a conversation you had with them? Is this just not a priority for Progressive Victory? The largest war in Europe since World War II, the deadliest war currently raging on the planet. Is that not a priority? Because it should be. It doesn't necessarily need to be priority every day in messaging when you're trying to talk about kitchen table issues, talking to people, but it should be a priority when we're talking about our foreign policy. And when you go to an anti-war rally and you got like 7 minutes, if we're being realistic, since we had to segment my segments with the segment of another creator by the name of Josie Rose, you got like 7 minutes of Ukraine, and half of that was talking about Iran. So you really got like 4 minutes of Ukraine in an hours and hours and hours long panel about, the anti-war left. And there was no discussion about the most violent war in the world, that America has, a direct like positive relationship with one of the countries that is being abandoned as we speak by the administration. There is $400 million worth of Ukraine aid that was passed in recent legislation as the House like tried to find some way to like get Ukraine something, since the House still generally supports Ukraine and the Senate still generally supports Ukraine. Not enough necessarily for political risk to oneself, especially Mike Johnson. But they just let it sit there. They haven't touched it. It's collected dust. Elbridge Colby, they tried to like do things to make it so Elbridge Colby and the Undersecretary of State, all these different, the Secretary of State and like everything was tied, so they had to like give this assistance. They just haven't sent it. It's not that there's no aid available. There is aid available. They just choose not to send said aid. They choose not to give it. They choose not to give it. Not only do they choose not to give it, but when it comes to the Pearl program, there's also a deprioritization of Ukraine's air defense systems that are protecting hospitals, civilian infrastructure, and factories for diversions of these military assets to the Middle East for a war that Trump started that ultimately was a war of choice. Thank you for the $2. He won't like it, but Hassan will defer to Matt Duss. I don't know if he'll defer to Matt Duss. Matt Duss is actually Ukrainian. At least he has Ukrainian roots. He doesn't live in Ukraine. He hasn't known wartime Ukraine. He can't know the experience of living in wartime Ukraine. There's certain like perspectives he can't have. But like when it comes to the progressives, he's like not anywhere near the worst. He's probably got like a somewhat positive position. I think that I'm probably more supportive of Ukraine in certain ways than maybe he is. Ultimately, like maybe I'm more hardline in my support, but ultimately he is supportive too. And like he does probably know responses to some of the worst, like just like bullet point arguments that, is thrown about. Either way, I made the argument that support for Ukraine was a moral center that had to guide the left as self-determination, and Ukraine's self-determination still matters. And that if we ask a nation to disarm itself with atomic weapons, that they should, get support if they're going to get invaded by the state that they were given their missiles to, especially if they've made agreements saying that, they won't invade and their security is guaranteed. So that was a convincing argument, combined with the fact that, and I have this on screen quickly, that in the Democratic Party, which Progressive Victory is not trying to gain a bunch of base support in the Republican Party, in the Democratic Party, support for Ukraine is very, very much the standard. Okay, let me show you something. This is the position of the total US population. The majority of Americans definitely want to give Ukraine support. 29, the biggest group of people in the United States currently is people who don't think we give Ukraine enough support. This is from the Pew Research Center. If you guys want to argue with this numbers, good luck. Pew Research. There's not a more credible name in polling. But the biggest group at 29% is not enough aid. The second biggest group is that we're giving about right amount of aid. Now, those people, I'm going to be honest with you, I imagine they all assume that we're still giving Ukraine the types of aid that we gave during the last administration, that we're continuing that process. I think they also assume that the aid that was passed through Congress, and this would actually be a normal assumption, was actually given to the Ukrainians. So I do wonder if they were given more detail, whether or not a few, maybe not double digits, but a few of those percentage points would go up to the not enough category. There is more people supporting not enough aid, saying that there's not enough aid going to Ukraine now than in like late 2022, in fucking mid 2022. The only time that even gets close, the only one that actually is, like, the only time period that it is more supportive is right at the start of the war at 42%. So right now, it is about as supportive, the American public, of Ukraine as it can probably be post-2022 shock. So this moment, after Trump gets in office in 2025, they see negotiations fail. A certain percentage of the population sees the aid go away and they actually follow it and they know it. And so the numbers change. And you've seen people thinking, oh, we give too much aid, to jumping to about right. And a lot of people who thought we give too much aid also going into not enough. We've seen some transfer of those percentages. As you can see, it goes down for the total American population. But my argument with Progressive Victory wasn't only this is generally popular anyway. It's very popular in the Democratic Party. It is like, oh my gosh, overwhelmingly popular. It's more popular now to give more aid to Ukraine in the Democratic Party than it was in 2022. If you look at the Republican Party, they still, you can see a good percentage of the population who thinks that they should be given aid, but not a lot that thinks that they're not being given enough aid. Actually, at the start, more Republicans thought they were not being given enough aid than Democrats. Biden's the president at the time, so you can imagine. But you see it now, 50%, half of Democrats think we're not giving enough aid. Half. That we need to give more. We need to give more aid. Mind you, those are people who thought we should have given more aid back during the Biden administration, combined with people who think we should be giving more aid at the start of the Trump administration, and people who think we should be giving more aid now, all built up to about 50%. That 18%, I swear to you, a good percentage of those people think we're still giving Biden-level numbers of aid. So we've got like roughly half the party that's like, more aid, more aid. We should give more aid. We tried to negotiate with the Russians and it failed. The idea that if we just cut off aid and peace would fall was not true. So we need to surge aid. Funnily enough, in some ways, this is actually a Trump position from the campaign trail where Trump said, hey, we're going to try negotiations, and if they don't work, we're going to pressure whichever party won't participate. If the Russians won't agree to a ceasefire, then we're going to surge aid. We're going to give them more aid, then we're going to knock their socks off. If the Ukrainians won't, then we'll cut it off, and XYZ. There was intelligence cuts. There were things like that. There were never that type of immense pressure necessarily brought down on the Russian side. And so the Democratic Party has seen that and said, wow, any doubts in my mind about, well, maybe if we stop surging aid and negotiate XYZ, that's been defeated. Goodbye. Russia is the problem. And so now they think surge aid, get Ukraine more aid, and force the Russians to come to the negotiating table. That is the most popular position in the Democratic Party. The second most popular position is, let's go back to Biden levels. The least popular position, less than 10% of the public in the Democratic Party believes that we're giving too much aid. So when I say 90% of the Democratic Party supports Ukraine, I literally mean 90%. Well, 91%. Sorry. 91%. So just over. But we'll just say roughly 90. Okay, you know, there's a a move here for, you know, some error in the polling. But either way, this argument of the morality of it combined with the popularity of it. If progressive victory, which this is their goal, I speak to an organization's goals, I speak to our candidates' goals. When I talk to them, or one of our Ukraine ambassadors from Track Ukraine talked to them, I said, if your goal is to have a moral center and push the party on issues that matter, like this immediate crisis of the invasion, and your goal is to actually take over the Democratic Party, you need to take positions that are popular in the Democratic Party to bring those people to you. And this is one of those positions. And not only that, if you're a progressive trying to overthrow, take over the Democratic Party, make it more progressive, if that's your goal, you should be picking up the flag and charging forward saying, you know, Chuck Schumer and gang didn't do enough. Biden didn't do enough. You know, punching towards the center of the party in many circles is popular. And this is an issue where if you did it, the wine moms across America that support Ukraine would listen to you and they would hear you and they'd say, that's actually a good point because wine moms support Ukraine. So this was why Progressive Victory eventually agreed to what I was doing. Okay, if anybody wanted an idea as to what was their position on this, I think that combined with the idea that we could actually include Progressive Victory as well in our grading system all came together to convince them, okay, we're going to make the standard on Ukraine aid that if you don't support Ukraine, we won't be fundraising for you. We won't be phone banking for you. We will not be going into a primary and trying to get what would end up being the worst position of any Democrat in Congress in there. I think right now it's Gonzalez for talking to the Russian MPs, but he also supported previous aid packages. Who knows if he'll support a future one? Somebody coming in already saying they won't support the aid packages. That would be the worst position inside of the entire Democratic Party, inside of the progressive left, everything, if they got in there. So it makes sense for, number one, Progressive Victory to support something that's popular, but also, number two, not to be associated with something that's unpopular. Supporting Putin, supporting the Russians, abandoning the Ukrainians, these are all unpopular positions, but they're very unpopular amongst the Democratic Party. When you see those percentages of like roughly 60% of Americans to 70% of Americans, last one I saw was 70, support Ukraine, it's like 30% of Republicans, 60% of independents, 60 to 65% of independents, and 90% of Democrats. Good luck in the Democratic Party if this becomes a discussion around your campaign. And I would advise that progressives would rather concentrate on issues like housing or inflation or, you know, cost of living or healthcare and making sure that every human being has it. You know, this is the type of stuff they would rather concentrate on where they have the strongest arguments than instead of being thrown into a foreign policy discussion where they're going to be look like they're abandoning the Ukrainians, which is very popular in the party. So all of this came together to convince them. And I think it was a wise move. Not everyone agreed. And I'm going to show you two examples. One example that is funny and another example that is even funnier. Let's go with the first one. The first example is Jose Vega. Jose Vega is running in New York as an independent, so he can lose in his principles, which is the only outcome if he runs as an independent and loses on his principles. He's running against Richie Torres. Now, he posted quite a lot after we made this organization. He tweeted like 12 times about us. So he was really, really focused. If you don't know who Jose Vega is, you might know him from early on in the Russian invasion of Ukraine. He would like go to like either like a Biden speech or some like speech where people are like supporting Ukraine, and he'd like yell at them for like being warmongers and stuff. While of course like having there's no solution. They don't offer a solution. Their solution is like stop supporting Ukraine and destroy NATO. That's not a solution. That's just America exiting the room, plugging their ears, saying la 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 as the mass graves of Mariupol are still filled. But Jose Vega is not supportive of Ukraine. He's very not supportive of Ukraine. And so after he like poked us, I guess like 12 times, and we just ignored him because he's irrelevant. He's gonna lose. It'll be funny. And he'll probably either lose to Michael Blake, who is the progressive running in the district, or he'll lose to Richie Torres. Like those are probably like the two much more likely outcomes than Jose Vega getting anywhere close to winning the seat. But Jose Vega was not happy enough to just like spitball at us for, we're destroying the left and we're making the left, too pro-Ukraine and oh this blah blah blah. He started making fake track Ukraine posts with AI. You can see it here. There's a Gemini like logo. There's an AI logo in the corner. You can see the AI logo, and you can see that these are the bullet points from a totally different legislator. And he then adds this like star in like New York. Like that's not in. We don't have any stars like designating where a city is in our graphic. It's just like an AI created track Ukraine graphic to make it look like that we've given Richie Torres a passing rating. And then added the message, oh, Richie Torres stands for free Ukraine. You know what? I will forgive all the slaughtering of Ukrainian children, profiteering he made for their deaths. Thank you, Track Ukraine. Now all our taxpayer money can continue funding Zelensky's cocaine-fueled dictatorship. So like he's like full down and like I'm Russia's sock puppet, you know, like I got it so far up there. Like I'm saying like Zelensky's cocaine fueled. There's human beings being hunted on the street in the human safari. And like he's in like Facebook meme territory of knowledge of the conflict. Right. I mean, he's a LaRoucheite, so I mean, intelligence is a foreign thing. But at the end of the day, this is really funny. This is really funny, dude. He's making AI fake track Ukraine posts. Do you know how mad you have to be to not only post about it like 12 times, but to make fake AI? Like this is the stuff that foreign intelligence agencies try to do with news outlets in order to like create narratives of like war crimes that didn't occurring, or trying to like change narratives about something that did occur, and like making like fake CNN graph. Like that's something that like they like take time to do and like disseminate. He got so angry at an organization before it was even like a week old. It wasn't even a week old. It was like a few days old that he starts making fake Track Ukraine posts while also not understanding at all the purpose of the organization. Track Ukraine tracks Ukraine. We don't track housing. I'm more progressive, and I'm the founder of the organization, mind you. I wrote the mission statement. I wrote the values of the organization. I came with my brand, and I put it on the flank of the organization as it like kicked and squealed. And we're not going to endorse anybody that will not condemn occupation anywhere because it is a crime everywhere. That's the values of the organization. We're not going to endorse them. A green ranking just means that this is somebody that will support Ukraine. It's not an indication that you should vote for them. It's not an indication that you shouldn't vote for them. I would say that the red ranking and the yellow ranking are much more like indications that you shouldn't vote for them. But a green ranking is essentially saying they're good enough. And we've responded to candidates that even tried to like say like, oh, this is an endorsement. And we're like, to be clear, it isn't, because candidates want more endorsements. They want to be able to say, I'm really good on Ukraine. But green ranking, which candidates, like I have seen candidates retweet it and be happy for it. And it makes sense, especially if all the things listed are positive. But it's just a you're good enough ranking. Congratulations, you pass. You know, it could be a C. Hell, it could even be a D minus. You just don't have an F. The standard is what the standard has been for basically every Democrat that's in elected office, which is supporting aid packages to Ukraine. That is the red line. All the other points are largely supplemental. There are other points that can affect your rating. Like for example, for Gonzalez's yellow ranking came from him meeting with the sanctioned Russian MPs and being the only Democrat to do so, adding a bipartisan flair to the meeting that Paula Ann Luna organized. So, you know, there are other things that can affect it, but the red line is like aid to Ukraine. But we didn't rank Richie Torres. We haven't contacted Richie Torres. He just wants to associate Richie Torres, funnily enough, with being, it's double-sided. Number one, Richie Torres is not liked on the left because he's really, really pro-Israel. You could look at his interview with Adam Friedland to hear his viewpoints on this to some extent. You could look at his commentary on Twitter. He's very, very pro-Israel. And so a lot of the left don't like Richie Torres for that reason. That, like, if you were an organization ranking housing, what does that have to do with housing? This isn't the green rating, even falsified, isn't an endorsement. But he doesn't know enough about it. He just like AI threw it in and just wanted to get that out there. It's very funny. I don't know if he'll make more posts about it. Each time he makes a post about it, I laugh. So I kind of want him to continue to make posts about it. But I think he should probably also focus on the election he's going to lose. because that's the only outcome to his race. So I will enjoy him losing, and if he keeps posting, we'll just like make a big compilation of all the times he posts us and show that he's obsessive, which he is. But expecting LaRouchites to be normal, that's quite difficult. Now, this is a different stream. This is a different negative reaction we got. This is from Nick Cruz, who runs the Revolutionary Blackout Network, which essentially is mainly him, but there are other people who speak from the revolutionary black perspective, you know, and also like a socialist Marxist perspective, more Marxist than just like socialist, but Marxist perspective, to get to the people, you know, get that message out to the people, you know. Now, I will just throw out there, if you have the name revolutionary in your organization, I do think you should be participating in revolutionary behavior, right? Like if I said there's a revolution going on, like you take a police station or two, I would just say that, I would put that out there. But you know, I think, you know, he wants a revolution, but understands that, you know, people aren't ready. You know, Vanguard Party and such needs to be prepared, something along those lines. Either way, he is of that ilk, and he comes out and he is seeing that we're putting together this, you know, pro-Ukraine thing, and he also sees that Progressive Victory makes this pro-Ukraine statement, and he records a 50-minute segment on this. I'm not going to go through all of this. Most of this for this stream for me is giggling and just explaining our position. But you can listen to a little bit of him before we get to the Dylan Burns part, which he left for the end. He left the best for last, which was Dylan Burns' analysis. And my goodness, he thinks that I'm a dark, dark individual.
Do you remember these guys? This is the new Democratic Party PSYOP, Progressive Victory. I did a diss track on them a few weeks ago. Yeah, it was definitely a diss track because I saw this shit.
Dude, I don't have a, you know what? I don't have a diss track for the Revolutionary Blackout Network. I don't. Okay, I don't. So he's got me on that. He's got a diss track.
I was like, bro, this is beyond fucking cringe. I think I clipped it as well. I clipped a video explaining how the NATO left plans to save the Democratic Party. And look at who's part of this. Crystal Ball, Emma Vigeland. They all these progressive candidates. Look, Hassan Piker. The voice of the United States left, my friends. Working as an agent of the Democratic Party.
Mind you, they're supporting primary candidates against people like Richie Torres. He'll just say, well, Richie Torres, you know, he's bad, but Michael Blake, you know, he's also, back in the day, he was friendly with AIPAC. Now he's very anti-AIPAC, but that's not pure enough. And so instead, you need to go for, like, I don't know, Jose Vega, somebody who's like pro-Putin. He's like, well, if you don't support this, like, you know, if you had that position a while ago, bad position a while ago, but you don't hold it today, that's worse than somebody having an absolutely abominable position today. Like, I mean, PV has been supporting a lot of primary candidates against established Democrats in office, and they will continue to do so. I mean, if you speak to the rank and file of the organization, like, they very much want to push the party leftward while also understanding the reality of where we are right now. I would even say, like, a lot of the rhetoric to me is too much. Like, after the assassination, like, I don't think people should be saying the R slur, honestly, online. And if you have, you should be probably moving away from it. I'm like, I don't want to be a worrywart or anything, but I don't think it makes the organization look professional. Like, there are complaints that somebody could make about Progressive Victory as the organization continues to grow, and it's right now it's more sizable than it's ever been. It's now one of the largest progressive political PACs, like organizing groups out there, like moving phone bankers. I mean, like the Jackson phone banking that was done after that stream we did, they hit like 3.5 thousand numbers in just like a single afternoon. They went through the phone banking list. They do like they're doing good work. when it comes to actually supporting campaigns. But Jackson is, compared to JD, the other person running in the race, much better on progressive values. Why is this the fight that's being picked? Is it simply because PV is a pro-Ukraine organization? I think it's simply because PV is a pro-Ukraine organization.
This segment is essentially my I told you so segment. I warned people about this shady group, and Hassan Piker in particular, who's a part of this group. Because you know who Progressive Victory have? They did this whole live stream. They had Valshan, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck? You inviting Val, someone who admitted?
You know, for me, what's interesting is this is personality based, right? We're opening with the personalities before getting into the policy. He's gonna be like, well, Vosh had the goblin images. He had the goblin images on his computer. Hassan was warned by me. Oh, Crystal Ball, all these people. Graham Plattner. You got Benjamin Dixon, you got the Ro Khanna, you got the XYZ, and he just like goes through like everybody. But then he gets to the fact that they made this announcement supporting Ukraine. He drags out, you know, what you would imagine would be the type of things that'd be said. If you want to go listen to his stream and hear the true truth about the war in Ukraine from somebody who knows nothing about it, you can go do that. But I just want to skip to the, I see, oh, look, George Soros, you got him back here. This is beautiful. I don't know why we're talking about George Soros, but let's get over to Track Ukraine, because Track Ukraine and Dylan Burns is when he said it got dark. He said when he saw that I was involved in this, it got dark, real dark.
Progressive Victory is coordinating with. And when you dive into it, Progressive Victory works closely with an organization that is imitating Track APAC called Track Ukraine, where they're tracking progressive and democratic candidates and demanding that they support Ukraine. So they're essentially a Ukraine APAC.
What? Number one, we're not a political action committee, okay? If we were, woo, I'd be making much bigger moves. I'd be making much bigger moves than the moves I'm making now. If that's how the game's played, okay, let's get the chess pieces in place. But I'm not it's a Twitter account, a bunch of social media accounts, and a public listing for transparency reasons, and our organization has values. We have a stance that we believe people should take, right? And our take is that we shouldn't abandon a country that we told to disarm itself to an invader that doesn't believe their country or even exists in the first place, right? There's values. You can read our About Us section. We don't bundle donations. We don't do what APAC does. I don't even know if he knows what APAC does, because if he's going to say something like that. But, you know, we got to associate Track Ukraine with the politically divisive organization to, like, poison the well before we even explain Track Ukraine's purpose. Like, yes, we do track politicians' views on Ukraine, so you don't have to. We do that at Track Ukraine on Twitter, at Track Ukraine on Instagram, at Track Ukraine on Blue Sky, trackukraine.com. We do that there. That's what we do. And we have candidates talk to people from Ukraine about the war. We're not doing dark money in politics. That's not what we're doing. I have no interest in doing that. It's about earnest conversations and about public transparency and an organization that has values behind it. Those are the three things. So I don't know if he needs to learn what a PAC is, but the Ukrainian APAC, it's funny because he says they're imitating Track APAC, but also they're the Ukrainian APAC. Wow. Okay. You know, there are actual lobbying groups that lobby on behalf of Ukraine, but instead, you know, this is the one that had the most success in progressive circles because we went there earnestly. And it seems that when you have 3.5-hour closed door conversations with me and sometimes ambassadors, it can be quite convincing, at least in our experience. The fact we've made so much progress in talking to the Hartzell campaign is somewhat surprising to me, but I'm very happy about the progress that's being made and trying to explain the war to them. But I mean, it's interesting. They both track AIPAC and AIPAC at the same time. We're a transient organization.
They're demanding Democratic Party politicians support NATO and demanding their loyalty.
No, there's no demand that they support NATO. There's no demand that they support NATO. There's a demand that they support Ukraine. If you wanted to be anti-NATO and pro-Ukraine, you can. I do ask what exactly NATO, if NATO goes away, what happens to European Defense Alliance structure? Like, do we just assume Estonia won't be invaded? Despite the recent rumblings we've heard from Narva, do we just assume that these other, you can have a rational discussion about the fact that there's a system that provides a function, and if the function goes away, wars could start, and we should avoid those wars. If you want to talk about it, what that transition could look like for, a defensive alliance structure that enforces national autonomy for the 21st century after the Cold War ended, you can have the discussion. But again, this is not related to what we rank. Somebody, if they're pro-Ukraine but want to withdraw from NATO, we will rank them as green. I will ask them privately, exactly what do you want to do once you withdraw from NATO? What's next steps here? But I mean, again, the organization tracks Ukraine. It doesn't track every nation in the NATO alliance.
Support NATO and demanding their loyalty toward the NATO agenda. And here's progressive victory.
What? Is that what we do? You know what? It's good that I now know what we do, because I wasn't familiar, I guess. And now I'm much more familiar.
Once again, supported by Hassan Piker, every single major progressive candidate who's running, Nina Turner, Val, the entire progressive left outside of RBN is supporting this shit.
I mean, they're supporting working with Progressive Victory to get campaigns elected. I wish what he was saying is true. I wish that by one move, I had turned the entire left to good advocates for Ukraine. Good advocates for the fact that Ukraine should have their own thing if they want to. That by Progressive Victory switching their stance, because they work with these people now, that's all these people's stance. No. Hassan Piker now doesn't think we should actively cut off all support for Ukraine. That was his position before. Now that's no longer his position, because it seems that the Russian negotiation stuff after it failed, that's something that he shifted on. But Nina Turner, I don't even know Nina Turner's position on Ukraine. I know that Crystal Ball's position on Ukraine is not send aid, and she was one of the biggest voices there. So I mean, there is a bunch of people that are not super in favor of Ukraine, but Progressive Victory wants to generally bring the country to the left. To their big left-wing content creators, they are willing to work with them because they're not candidates they're endorsing. If they were candidates they're endorsing and they had that position, then they wouldn't get endorsed. And to be quite frank with you, I do think the long-term vibe shift is important. Shifting the political discussion, moving the discussion over to being more supportive of Ukraine. That's of course a goal of the organization. But our most primary goal is to make sure that the people who get in office in 2026 are not people who will abandon Ukraine. And that's why we have the abandonment red line. And with Democrats taking back the House likely, and also possibly the Senate, but that's less likely, they could have potential influence in taking some action on Ukraine, even with presidential veto power, depending upon what things they could possibly hold. If the presidents hold strong on this and say, hey, what are we going to do? If you want to get this done, you have to help us here. Or any other number of strategies that could be attempted. I think that one's probably the cleanest, even if it's one of the more aggressive strategies. But if the Democratic Party elected is there's nobody that there's nobody that will abandon Ukraine, then that becomes much easier. My focus is on the people with actual voting power. Okay, I don't care too much what your podcast said. It is interesting that I sometimes will talk to candidates and they'll tell me things that I've heard on podcasts. I know exactly how it got to them, and having to undo that damage sometimes is, oof. These conversations can go on for hours and hours for a reason, sourcing stuff like that. But they've been overwhelmingly positive, something that I'm sure he's very happy about. Even with the Marxists, which I'm sure he's even more happy about. Look, I would be maybe a little bit more, a little bit less dismissive of him if he knew anything about the organization, maybe even read the About Us section before he went live. But I don't know. It's an hour-long segment. He could have taken the time. Look how many links and how many tweets he brings on stream, which, as we all know, is the ultimate form of journalism.
Every single major progressive candidate who's running, Nina Turner, Val, bro, the entire progressive left outside of RBN is supporting this shit. They all supported Zoran. Look, you guys see how Progressive Victory is working with Track Ukraine?
Hassan's aid to Ukraine position changed because the Trump 2 admin adopted the popular leftist position of leverage aid for Ukraine to make concessions for peace.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree that, like, him having the same position as Trump would have been unsustainable.
8D5D2 Derek has donated $5. This probably counts as reaction to Track Ukraine. Hassan made a little passive-aggressive comment about you. There was a way he'd chat with you.
Hassan made a passive-aggressive comment about you. Wish there was a way he'd chat with you. I don't know if I care too much to look at Hassan Piker's clips, honestly. I don't know who that is. Who's that? Who's Hassan? I don't believe I've heard him before. That was the weirdest reaction to me. Who's Dylan? Never heard of him. Strange. Especially after reacting to me before. I don't know. I guess a Humegalol is like the ancient like Twitch streamer tactic.
Track Ukraine that is being ran by Dylan Burns. Bro, this shit is getting extremely dark.
I'm sorry. Oh God! Oh God! Not that bastard! Oh God! No! 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 My God! Not Dylan Burns! Oh my goodness! That was almost like, oh no, Sam Cedar. Oh my God, man! Not Dylan Burns! My God, no! That can't happen.
And ran by Dylan Burns. Bro, this shit is getting extremely dark. You guys know who Dylan Burns is? Dylan Burns is a Fed. He literally was doing on-the-ground report for Ukraine, and he is the biggest supporter of NATO in the Bernie media industrial complex. He paints himself as a progressive. Bro, if you dive into Dylan Burns, bro, you're going to lose all faith in humanity.
I'm sorry. I accidentally sped through that. You listened to Dylan Burns.
Supporter of NATO in the Bernie media industrial complex. He paints himself as a progressive. Bro, if you dive into Dylan Burns, bro, you're going to lose all faith in humanity.
Lose all faith in humanity. He's talking like I was like working at some sort of like, I don't know. I was like I was at Dachau or something. Like the way this just got dark. If you learn about Dylan Burns, you will lose all faith in humanity. Oh man, it's like he makes me sound like one of the four horsemen in the way he's describing me here. Like I'm like Dylan Buchenwald Burns is, oh, that's horrible. But Dylan, like one of the horsemen's bringing plague and death and destruction in the Bernie media industrial complex, was that what they would call me? Because I canvass for Bernie and I like Bernie. I didn't know that was part of the media industrial complex. I'd imagine if you're part of the Bernie media industrial complex, you actually had to do more than just like canvas for the Bernie. You'd like, if you were like his press director or like, I don't know, but I'm a Fed. He's literally done on the ground reporting in Ukraine. I think that's why I'm a Fed, is because I came here. I think one of the most interesting things I found out about life is the awe and the reaction in reaction to people just doing things. I came to Ukraine because I could and I wanted to. And now I've been here going on 5 years since reporting on the front line. You don't need to be a CIA agent to embed on the front lines. There are tons of reporters that do it. Okay, all you need to do is get military accreditation. I've done it. Many other people can do it. There's people who, all across the country that have covered very difficult topics in Ukraine, including myself. Topics that are difficult for the government, whether it has to do with the issue of corruption, whether it has to do with the issue of, that right sector interview and asking them about, anti-queer violence or like, this, and that was done in their base, like a few miles from the Russian border. Okay. So there are journalists that work across the country that aren't CIA agents, but it is beautiful that he thinks I'm one.
He's a close friend with Vaush. He was one of the people pushing the anarcho-Bidinist bullshit.
What? 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 I don't even know what he's talking about here. Anarcho, but I'm not an anarchist. I'm sorry to disappoint all the Machno fans in chat, though. You know, his bust is pretty cool. Like, I'm not an anarchist. I don't know what. I wouldn't have wanted anarcho-Bidenism. I would have wanted Biden to be like more progressive, but I don't know what he's talking about, honestly.
Look, reporting on the ground in Ukraine, journalist and streamer. You have all these streams, him on the ground with Ukraine. Essentially, he's a Nazi pro-NATO war pig.
Damn, that title. You got he's on the ground with the Ukraine. He's interviewing Mr. Ukraine on the ground like the CIA does, and the CIA pleases. And after Trump's taken over and cut all that support, apparently I'm still here fetting out. You know, I mean, we're getting stories republished by the president of the United States saying that like the Ukrainians wanted to funnel money to Biden's campaign. You know, they're getting stories like that, like retweeted by Donald Trump. But he's also still funding through the CIA and John Ratcliffe's intelligence agency me to be here on the ground trying to move like people who watch my documentaries towards Ukraine. And I've just chosen in that effort to include the interviews where people complain about not getting their pay, having to buy their gear. I just chosen to do that, though it's completely contradictory towards that effort. Like, why? I don't know. But I mean, Nazi war pig. My goodness. Oink, oink.
Here he is.
Because I stream on the ground and I support Ukraine. That's really because I've been to Ukraine and I support Ukraine. I have the values of Germany 33 to 45. I have those values. Though, if you go to those people, the people who are actually throwing up the Roman salutes, they absolutely despise me. Okay. I've done more reporting on the Ukrainian far right than this guy can even begin to try to recall. I've forgotten more about the Ukrainian far right than Nick Cruz has ever known. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's interesting, though, that I am like the Banderite gay as of the combination of like all these values have come together to create such a interesting conglomeration.
Acknowledging that he has secret meetings.
What does he mean, secret meeting? Dog, it's in the Discord. You can see us in the office hours chat. What do you mean?
8D5D2 Derek has donated $5. Anarcho-Bidenism was a meme from our Oak Buddy Vouch from back in the day when I used to be an active mod on that subreddit.
Got you. I don't know. I guess it's a meme that I participated in without knowing. I have no clue what he's talking about. I'm not that terminally online. It's secret meetings. We were in the Discord, and after we would have the meetings, I would go to the rest of the people in the PV community and talk to them and find out they were overwhelmingly supportive of Ukraine too. The organization simply just adopted the values of its base, and we helped them along the way.
Here he is, acknowledging that he has secret meetings with Progressive Victory. Look,
I muted myself. You know what that was right there? That was my CIA training failing me. But I don't know how something's a secret meeting if you announce that you had a meeting. That is by virtue not a single secret meeting. And like, how long was it a secret? A day spent last night talking to them? Like, secret. Like she's trying to create like it's so shady what happened. Ooh, there were polls in the community. Like this was like a big public discussion in PV that Nick Cruz was not a part of because he's not a part of PV and he doesn't do like a lot of like election organizing. And there's not a lot of people who share the values that he does that participates in electoral politics like Progressive Victory does. And so they don't need to appeal to you. They need to appeal to the people that actually make up the Democratic Party that they want to move to the left. And they have to listen to their base.
Last night meeting with Progressive Victory leadership and volunteered to talk Ukraine about setting standards.
Hey, thank you. He says each word with such outrage. I don't know where the outrage is placed. Brunkle Jimothy, what a name. Opening Twitch for my 1 month free Prime sub. Love you, Dylan. Slava Ukraini. Here I'm Slava. I think it's a dirty that's a dirty word in that room. The stream we're watching right now. But he really says each word with such outrage that it's like, you know, it's if the entire roller coaster is nothing but up and down, it's like you gotta emphasize on certain words.
With Progressive Victory. Look, spent last night meeting with Progressive Victory leadership and volunteered to talk Ukraine about setting standards to truly anti-war candidates that won't abandon Ukraine. So, bro, Progressive Voice, Nina Turner part of it, the entire United States left part of it, is having meetings with this neocon Fed boy where he is setting the
neocon Fed boy. You know, I think that for some people, neocon became you believe a weapon at some point should go somewhere. Because neoconservatives had like an actual like belief structure. It wasn't just somebody who is neoconservative is hawkish on one issue or even is like wants to send a weapons package to some country. That's not what neoconservatism is. But neoconservatism just became kind of like a slur, neocon, the shorthand of neoconservatism, to the point where you would just throw it at anybody that wasn't as pacifistic as you, and that is the way he's using it here. And to mind you, to abandon a country being invaded is not pacifistic because you didn't bring about any peace.
Nina Turner part of it, the entire United States left part of it, is having meetings with this neocon Fed boy where he is setting the guidelines on what the progressive left is supposed to support.
I will say we basically did dog walk the entire guideline process. And I remember they like the image that when they interviewed me, they put in the newsletter for how the negotiations went. 1 second. Let me bring up the PV newsletter because it was featured. I was featured in the newsletter. They interviewed me for it. You know, see, I took the time to really do the deep state capture. You know, I took the time to like, I just walked around in the chats for like a week, like went to like had meetings, did the thing. And, you know, that's organizing, baby. That's how it works. But if you look at the newsletter, you can get like the interview with me as well as like a message about what the interview's about. And you can also get this image when they asked me the question, here it is. What does the partnership with PV look like going forward beyond the endorsement change? And I just sent them this. And so like it is true that like we really did, if it wasn't for the way we did it with the like endorsement system and the Ukrainian ambassadors and the fact that we are perfectly comfortable with like social taboos and people feeling consequences of social taboos and social pressure, that's the fact that we're very comfortable with that. Did help PV go further along in this process. And like I was told by people who are associated with the organization, you know, rank and file and others, and you know, people in positions, that, you know, if I had taken another approach, this might have taken longer. They may have waited till the like, you know, the end, like next conference for the organization. But I mean, it's not like they were never pro-Ukraine. If you look at their platform, it was always pro-Ukraine. We just made it a red line and we're loud about it. That's the only difference. But you know, it is true that we definitely like, we were like the point man for setting the standards. That's true. Track Ukraine was. We'll take that because I actually take that with a point of pride. But it also makes me very happy that it upsets people like this.
This should be a gigantic scandal for the progressive Democrat movement, but I'm the only one covering it.
Make this a scandal now. Why does no one care? Oh God, why don't we have the left uniting around let the Russian army approach Zaporizhia and bomb it to hell? Why can the left not? Look, it's sorry, it's just that your position isn't defensible in any progressive movement that actually wants to get somewhat mainstream and wants to participate in electoral politics long term. And they found it was much more beneficial to support Ukraine, both for the interests of the organization, but also the values of the organization. And it wasn't a scandal because it's not that big of an issue. And nobody who's mainstream enough that people would care about them is dumb enough to go in the trenches and start fighting over this specific standard. You might get like a comment here or there, but it's not that big of a scandal because this is the median position of the Democratic voter. And it is the position of most people who call themselves progressive. We'll say call themselves progressive because I don't know if he thinks they're progressive. Though, by the way, if you look at the history of the progressive movement in the United States, there's a lot of people who were progressive and considered progressive during their time, including Woodrow Wilson, that would not be progressive today. Even though Woodrow Wilson was a flaming racist.
Look, here's progressive victory. Give Track Ukraine a follow. Massive respect for Dylan for taking this on and digging in his heels to protect Ukraine. Here's progressive victory being a sycophant supportive of Track Ukraine. And
it's a quote tweet. Sycophant. It was a quote tweet. Everything has to be morally charged. Every word, every sentence. You can't just talk like a normal person. I wonder why the Revolutionary Blackout Network isn't starting the revolution.
the NATO left agenda. Look, this is who we are at Track Ukraine. And they're like, this is amazing. You guys see how there's an established, coordinated effort in order to build a CIA suitable left?
Is a CIA suitable left is very funny. But if they support Ukraine and then don't support Israel, what's the CIA suitability there? Is it because they support anything that an establishment person could support? Like, if the establishment all of a sudden came out in support of the freedom of the people of Western Sahara, would that be a bad thing? Like, I don't know. This seems like an antagonistic way to approach politics. What do they believe? I believe the opposite. That's what it feels like. Thank you for your sycophant sub, Scurvy Curvy. I appreciate that.
A CIA.
Also, when you say coordinated by who? By the organizations that we've communicated with and we've gotten on board with our message? Yeah, coordinated by me, I guess. If it's being coordinated by anyone.
Coordinated effort in order to build a CIA suitable left. A left that is supportive of NATO, and how Hassan Piker.
Again, the organization has a ambivalent position towards NATO. It's not what we track. It's not what we judge.
A left that is supportive of NATO, and how Hassan Piker is playing a gigantic role in this. So now that you guys know that Progressive Victory is a neocon NATO psyop,
now that I've proven it with a bunch of accusations, false statements, and moral finger wagging, now that I've proven it.
Let's rewind. Who's a part of this? Who's supporting Progressive Victory?
Okay, so then after that, it's just going back to the other creators that actually like have, you know, their things out there.
Rally to me. Like Dylan, bro.
Why didn't he call out Mike? Hey! Oh, Mike gets a pass. Mike gets a pass. Can you believe it? Hey, you guys want to know why Mike gets a pass? Mike gets a pass because he's part of the clique. He's part of the ideological clique, so he gets a pass. He can be associated with an organization that is, what was it, Nazi, NATO, War Pigs, or whatever. But nope, he's part of the clique. He gets that's very funny. That might be the most telling part of all of this. Mandatory Mike from PA clip.
Christianity united all those who were at the bottom. And it was so insidious, it spread so widely, spreading the idea of the equality of men and being judged by your actions and your beliefs. It was radically egalitarian. It didn't conquer. Ghost of Toller, thank you for the tier 1. Unless you're like, unless you're, one of the fucking horse meat eating slop fuckers of, Estonia or something. But other than Estonia, Christianity, for the most part, did not conquer. It was the, oh, you're pathetic and your life sucks? Well, God loves you. Hassan Orbiter's loving Stalin and being anti-Estonian and anti-bait racist, thinking that Stalin is the opposite of Hitler, who civilized the Baltic savages, that they keep your love your 50%. I mean, it is just objectively true that the Soviet Union raised you guys to sentience. It is true. I mean, like, weren't you still doing human sacrifices at that point?
What a beautiful clip. I appreciate civil rights activist Mike from PA's opinion. Mike from Pennsylvania.
Like Dylan, bro, oh my God. I didn't even notice this when the first time I covered this. Bro, this right here should have been the sign that this shit was a gigantic psyop. If you-
I am the canary in the coal mine. When Dylan walks in the room, the CIA itself is looming in the background. I make the ground tremble with every step at the fear of what shall happen to the village when I arrive. Like, I mean, come on, dude. I'm the object of all of this ire. My goodness. Aren't there like people convicted of war crimes in the world? Like, there's like, I don't know, a lot of other people that could be your antithesis. Your like mystical machine of propaganda and terror. But because I've been so consistent, and the fact that I came over here, saw everything on the ground, and came with a position that wasn't his, Fed. It's as simple as that. It's just because I'm reporting on the ground in Ukraine. I don't have his position, Fed. Not only Fed, but every other bad aspersion in the book.
You want to learn more about Dylan Burns, look into him. He is 100% a Fed propped up by Ukraine. He's like a big, gigantic supporter of NATO. He's a big...
Again, I am ambivalent about NATO. I recognize the importance for Estonia not to get invaded and the need for there to be an organization that will stop that. And NATO currently serves that purpose. But I'm ambivalent to NATO, period, as an organization, as a Cold War relic, that it might not even be perfectly fit for the modern purpose of a wide-spanning defensive alliance across European nation states. But this is beautiful. I'm 100% a Fed because I went to Ukraine and I support Ukraine. Hey, what's the position of the average American? Oh, support Ukraine. What's the position of the average person on the American left? Oh, support Ukraine. Whether or not he likes it, whether or not he would consider all those people in the left. What is the average position of the people in the Democratic Party, which I'm a party member of? Oh, support Ukraine. What's the average position of the person who actually travels to Ukraine and sees stuff firsthand? Oh, support Ukraine. And the outcome is I must be a Fed rather than I just support Ukraine. If I'm a Fed, dude, I would have much better, my community knows this, I have better mics. My mics would all work. My cameras would all work. I wouldn't have to learn filmography and filmmaking on the fly. You go back and watch my 2022 films. My God, my first one, my God, those are rough. The audio is rough, but I've learned myself. I didn't go to no filmmaking college. Maybe they could have recruited somebody, maybe actually went to filmmaking school or something like that. I'm a bad recruit for this. I just don't think I'm a good recruit for this program. I really don't. And it certainly doesn't make any sense considering how anti-Trump I am, that the Trump administration want to pull back the curtain on that, or like, I guess that I'm the one CIA asset they don't want to expose.
Big, super anti-tanky guy. He like, oh, we got to get rid of the tankies in the left. He is. I think he's worse than Vosh.
That's like a great impression, by the way. I want to give him credit for that. That's just like me.
Rid of the tankies in the left. He is. I think he's worse than Vosh. Like
that's wow. Why? Number one, is Vosh like the worst? Is he like the standard of badness? Is everybody put on the Vosh-o-meter? Or like how to figure out how bad you are? But I am in his phrasing, I'm the worst person on the American left because I'm so like steadfast in my support for Ukraine. Like all my other like positions, like all of them kind of fade into the background compared to the fact that the thing I focus on is not, you know, give the Russians a flower. But the worst on the left is quite a title to be given. It is quite a title to be given. This really bothered some people, didn't it? But it got a lot of other people to actually appreciate Progressive Victory stance. I want to throw that out there. And the base of PV is 100% on board. Because I don't think they believe I'm a Fed. Neither do the candidates I'm talking to.
He's in the left. He is. I think he's worse than Vosh. Like, bro, Vosh got a lot of his politics from Dylan Burns. He's not that.
What? Huh? I'm sorry. I only watched like the first 30 seconds of this the first time of like this Dylan segment. Immediately I was like, I have to watch this on stream. This is hilarious. I gave okay. You know what? Sure. Why not? Why not? I made Vosh. Or as I like to call him, Irish laddie. It was me. And my God, sometimes when I see the things he says, oof, I'm like, do I got to bring him back to the training camp? Do I got to bring him back to the child soldier? I got to get him back to crawling across the dirt and give him that deep like CIA Azov training. Get back on the golden path. I gave him his beliefs. That's awesome. That's incredible. That's incredible. Mind you, I met Vosh probably when I first spoke to him. I was 18 years old. Was I programming him from then? Was it, or is this like a more, since I've done reporting in Ukraine, he takes a pro-Ukrainian position, maybe in part because of my reporting, which I guess isn't impossible. I think that, you know, that's a possibility. I mean, I've talked to candidates who've said that they watched my documentaries or they've watched my program, and it's informed them on the war, which surprised me because I didn't. It's kind of a shock to hear. And honestly, it's sometimes a shock to hear anybody watches my stuff. But it's the very fascinating development. I created Irish Laddie, also known as Vosh, also known as Vosh Video.
Tankies in the left. He is. I think he's worse than Vosh. Like, bro, Vosh got a lot of his politics from Dylan Burns. He's not that relevant, so I make sense that you guys don't know him. But trust me, the fact that Dylan Burns is part of this, bro.
Maybe my lack of relevance is really part of the plot, to be in the background and shifting the stuff in the left. Maybe the lack of relevance allows me to have a worm tongue type impact on creators. Like, yes, support Ukraine, support you. Yes, I believe that the Ukrainians shouldn't be pushed into mass Mariupol graves. Yes. What? This is beautiful, man. I'm both track APAC and the CIA and the worm tongue of the left and the worst, most dangerous figure on the left, having secret meetings, getting recruited by the feds. Like honestly, somebody has to do something about this Dylan Burns guy. Somebody has to do something about this dude.
He is. I think he's worse than Vosh. Like, bro, Vosh got a lot of his politics from Dylan Burns. He's not that relevant, so I make sense that you guys don't know him. But trust me, the fact that Dylan Burns is part of this, bruh. This is the face of the new Progressive Democratic Party.
Who Who, me? Me? I'm the face? Oh, well, if the title must be taken, then the title will be. What do you mean I'm the face of the modern? I think he wants to associate me as the face of the left in order to try to get some like inner discovery of the left. Like, oh, what are we becoming? I'm not the face of the left. I'm not a household name. Like, there's a million other people that could be the face of the modern left. Maybe I'm the face of a specific faction of pro-Ukraine people because I'm just constantly like maybe a specific part of the left. Like, I don't know. But the face, but even that I would question because there's creators who have been supportive of Ukraine that are bigger than me. But just the fact that I stepped into Progressive Victory, worked for a week, and we changed their position and are now changing position of a bunch of campaigns, that alone, the groundwork in the dirt, getting these positions changed and adjusted upon hearing new information, that is what's scary. It's not that I have a big audience, it's that I also know how to organize, which is something that's very, again, can be foreign to this creator.
Trust me, the fact that Dylan Burns is part of this, bruh, this is the face of the new Progressive Democratic Party. And this is the people, these are the people who are going to rally behind AOC in 2028. God help our soul if she gets elected.
What? I didn't know. God help our soul. Trump is president. What is AOC going to do that's so dangerous that Trump? She wouldn't even say she supports Taiwan. Like she's so like probably tepid on the issues that he's like fear-mongering about. God help our soul if AOC gets elected. My God, man. Is this what he focuses on?
In 2028. God help our soul if she gets elected. But we can keep going. The NATO left is real.
Hey, there's a person that was on the panel with me. Anyway, very not happy. Very not happy. I think then he goes on to complain about our revolution. Because again, he's not like a big fan of the Bernie Sanders left. He's a fan of this. I mean, he was quote tweeting our panel with like Stalin. So I guess we know the type of left that he'd like. Man, this was funny. I hope he makes another stream because this is the easiest propaganda. More CIA propaganda for me to make. Man, get a hobby, go outside, touch grass, and I don't know, go organize if you don't like what I'm doing, because I'm not gonna stop.